Do the trashy pulp novels of the world have anything to offer? Are bestsellers all they're cracked up to be? Here at Terrible Book Club, we explore whether you really can judge a book by its cover, or its ridiculous synopsis. You ever passed a book and thought, ugh, who's reading this? We probably are.
Hello and welcome to episode 178 of the Terrible Book Club.
Wrong number. Why don't we just do that with the cold open? Yeah, you know what? Let's just keep going.
I can't even count anymore. I like this condensed version of Terrible Book Club recording has fried my ability to even interpret numbers. Hello and welcome to mercifully the last episode in season 8 of Terrible Book Club. This is episode 179 of the Terrible Book Club. I'm Paris and this is Chris.
Hello.
This time we read You Are Becoming a Galactic Human by Virginia Essene.
I've waited so long.
Essene and Sheldon Nidle or Nidle, not sure. This was recommended to us by the ever antique and freaky Ken of Antiques Freaks. He always has the finest things for us to explore.
Right?
And
only
sure
just like from the
piece.
darkest depths of wherever he goes to find these things.
I'm not sure. I just remember a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, he said, hey, what about this? It's about how everyone's going to become enlightened dolphins or something in 1996. And we said, all right, we put it on the list, and here we are.
It's like, let's end year 8 with this.
All right, Chris, you want to tell folks what we do here if somehow this is the first time they're finding us?
If this is your first time listening to the show, what we do here at the Terrible Book Club is read books that we assume will be bad based on their cover, title, summary, or some combination of the three. Sometimes, like today, we read books that our patrons, listeners, or friends recommend. So we do the opposite of what most people do in a bookstore or while they're browsing the internet. Usually this experiment results in a disappointing read, but once in a while we end up liking the book. Instead, this time we have become terrible humans.
I mean, or I don't know.
Do you feel galactic, Paris? How galactic do you feel today?
I mean, my brain feels like hot soup, so like it could be
You're
galactic,
becoming
it could
soup
be death.
human.
Not really sure.
In addition to our usual barnyard language, today's episode includes discussion or mention of dangerously high woo-woo levels. They are off the charts. We thought we were off the charts with Afterlife Love, but this is so far gone.
Yeah, this is beyond that.
We need to invent a whole new
beyond.
system of rating woo-woo to get the handle on this.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough.
It's galactic level woo-woo. You are becoming a galactic woo-woo human.
Yes.
Okay, well, Paris, why don't you hit us with the back of the book summary since you are in possession of the physical copy of the book?
Yeah, today we got a real live physical back of the book. A bold, urgent, and extraordinary revelation about Earth's hidden million-year history and secret truths of human relationships with spiritual masters and star beings. Why is time accelerating?
You know, I've always said it feels like that, but now I have the answers.
What is causing it? Why will all physical life change by the end of 1996? How may you prepare? How can you regain your full DNA 12 helix consciousness identity?
Shit, I knew I lost it somewhere.
Man, we lost 10 of them. That's rough. Will the second coming of Christ be what you thought it would be?
God, last minute Jesus again.
LMJ, there he is. Oh, right at the end. Fuck, thought we escaped. Nope. What role are the Syrians playing in human evolution? Will they be landing soon?
I think they're just in Syria.
You know, that is, yeah, these are homophones. Sorry, let me finish this and we'll clear that up. Is physical death still necessary? Is ascension possible. The authors: Virginia Essene, or Essene, or Essene, not sure. Virginia, author of 5 spiritual New Age books, channels the Christ energy and gives lectures and seminars around the world. Her books have reached the far corners of our planet and have been translated into many foreign languages. Sheldon Nidle has been given cosmic information since childhood on true Earth history, science, culture, spirituality, and galactic humans from other stars. He has just now been allowed to present this information to the public.
Oh.
Time is
I'm sure
critical.
Someone was really keeping him back. It was just his family just being like, Sheldon, I don't know.
Time is critical. You are needed. Will you help?
All right. So I think you guys see what we're dealing with here. Here's some of the characters and setting so that you have a vague idea what's going on here. There's actually not that many characters. The setting is 1990s.
Chris, there are innumerable characters. We cannot count all the Time Lords.
I suppose, yes. If you're counting each individual Time Lord, then yes, there's a lot of characters here. We'll get to that. But let's do the broad strokes characters and setting here. So the setting is 1990s Earth because this was published in like the early 90s? 1994. Okay, all right. So we have the authors. I suppose they're characters here because they're the ones telling us all about this stuff. So we have Virginia and Sheldon. Although Sheldon just appears in one chapter as like, yeah, I got told all this by an alien, and I'm telling Virginia that. And then Virginia gets to talk to the aliens, which I assume is just her talking to Sheldon. Really?
Yes, correct.
Is what's going on. Anyway, the main alien, the Malian, is Washta, who is telling the alien that's telling us all this bullshit here. But there's some other ones like Omtron and Teletron and Metatron and Sirai, and like they've got a bunch of different names.
Yeah, you know what? It's all your favorites from How to Fucking Sing to Archangels or whatever that book was.
That's and then like an archangel
and then
human.
like yeah, so it's all of your favorite hits from the Archangel books we read, like Breath Tap and whatever. I forget what episode that was. That was like 3 years ago.
And then a little bit of...
No, I think we did that during... God. We did that, I think, in 2020.
All the woo-woo stuff just blurs.
Yeah, it's a long time. So you get all your classic Archangel hits, and then you also get a little bit of Afterlife Love. We get a little sprinkles of Niles McFleur in here. So it's, it's all... your favorite woo-woo classics together at last in one volume.
I
can't believe I'm a Galactic Human 1994. There are also other various characters and settings. I mean, we go through Earth's history like 900,000 years ago, various groups of people throughout time, Sumerians, Egyptians, Mayans,
like,
you got it all. They're all in here.
Human, quote unquote, alien races, and then the Greys show up a little bit. You got the Reptoids, all your favorite alien guys.
All right. So, Chris very kindly wrote the summary today, which I have actually not even read a single part of once. So
you're probably going to find something that is incorrect here because I skimmed through some of the history section. So feel free to correct it as you go along.
That's fine. All right. So, we just like to do a little plot summary. Although this is less plot, this is more a collection of the stream of consciousness ideas and generalizations to help you through our understanding of what we read, consumed. All right, folks, guess what? Everything you know about human history is wrong. Darwin is dumb. You stupid science nerds don't know anything. Washta is here to blow this whole thing wide open by telling 7-year-old Sheldon Nidle, and then later graduate student Sheldon Nidle, that humans really come from another star system. The dinosaurs were just humanoid reptile beings that wanted to colonize Earth, but they got in a fight with the other aliens who blew them the fuck up with their fusion reactors. This is because Earth is special for reasons, so everyone wanted to be here to do genetic stuff, but aliens were fighting a bunch, so the original primates on Earth were eradicated and replaced with aquatic primates from another planet. Whales and dolphins escaped the horrible fate of original primates from Earth and are thus super big brain mega evolved stewards of life on Earth, and you should treat them real nicely and follow their example. At some point, there was Atlantis and Lemuria and like Egypt and Sumeria and all that shit. which were governed by the aliens that brought the aquatic primates over, and they had a big fight, pew pew kaboom. Atlantis won and got to do their genetic experiments on humans, which is why we're dumb and don't experience all our chakras and have access to higher dimensions. But don't worry, when the beam of photon light crosses into our solar system, the good aliens are going to help us get all our DNA back to its original 12 helix form so we can do all the cool woo-woo ether realm shit we've read about in other books. Thanks, aliens! Alright, got that? Cool. Now study these charts that show you the organizational structures for high-level beings, because apparently even when you've opened your 12th eye and ascended beyond death, you still have to deal with fucking middle management. Guess what? At the end of everything, it's still Target, and it's still Jesus.
No matter what.
That's what we've decided.
You gotta report to the chief officer of your 11th chakra because you didn't fill in your quota of chakra awakenings. So you better get on that, buddy, or else the Galactic Federation is gonna put you on your performance improvement plan.
Look, Chris, I don't know how to tell you this, but I just got back from Dimension 5, and they're telling me you haven't fucked enough dolphins this year.
Look, it's really hard. I have to, I'm a Time Lord too. There's an atom of some dude's butthole that I'm in charge of that I have to make sure is in existence all the time. You try having sex with dolphins when you're making sure that atom is manifested, okay?
No, I know it's hard. I know, but we've all got our atoms to deal with, and we've all got to fuck a dolphin.
Listen, there was massive budget cuts. We had to cross over the Time Lording with the dolphin fucking. It's the same department now.
Yeah. All right. So, Chris, what was good about this? Was there anything good about it?
The thing that I found good about it, and you in our notes here found many more good things about it, but really the only thing that I cared about was that there are many charts in this book and diagrams, and they are very funny. They are extremely funny because...
Well, some of them were fun, kind of whatever. They didn't really strike me as funny. And then I got to page 109.
Remind me which one was there, because there's a lot of charts and diagrams on here. I have a lot of personal favorites. Anything towards the beginning of the book where it's not to scale is some of my favorite shit, because it'll just have a doodled photon beam and then the Earth here in photon beam in there. That was extremely funny to me.
So page 109, since this is a audio medium, I'm going to describe this. We'll post the picture on social media. We've got a diagram, figure 17, Atlantean King Atlas, real creative, creates plan for reestablishing Lemurian culture. King Atlas sent his mated children, Osiris and Isis, to the Libyan Egyptian Empire to reestablish the ancient Lemurian culture. Seth, son of King Atlas, was not happy to surrender his empire to his brother Osiris. At approximately 9500 BC, Atlantean King Atlas sent his wife, Queen Mu, and her brother, Mayam, to Central America with the Atlantean forces as a diversionary tactic. And while all that just sounds ridiculous, the illustrations are mwah. Chris, this is I'm showing Chris over video here. We got,
so it's got doodled kings and queens. Some of them are sort of Egyptian looking. Some of them maybe look like what a children understands someone from Aztec or Maya to come from. And they're all just sort of standing on these separated continents. Yes, I am also King Atlas at the top gets his own chair. The rest of them don't get their own chair. So it's just very funny, cartoony, sort of king and queen diagram so you understand in great detail where the kings and queens were here.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need for this diagram. It does nothing. It doesn't give you any more information than the text. And what's better is that these illustrations are about a step up from stick figures. So they just kind of undercut your whole this is extremely important argument. They just make it seem even sillier than it already does. So yeah, illustrations were kind of silly. There's also another one of this is what the Syrians look like from Sirius, from Sirius, not Syria, Syria on Earth. And of course, I'm sure you can all guess exactly what they look like. Your basic Northern European person.
Oh, really?
Of course. Because of course they do.
I really like the middle management charts towards the end of the book, because it's just all these square, diagrams that show under the Galactic middle manager, you have all the middle galactic serfs or whatever is happening there, and they're all in their different work groups. It looks like a shitty design for someone's Microsoft Active Directory that they were trying to impart upon other people.
It's a very good description. We've got the chart of the first contact team. Board of Command, 50 members. Beneath the Board of Command, you have the landing team. Beneath the landing team, you have the non-human landing team, science evaluation team, and the counseling and assistance team. You got the spiritual hierarchy team, kind of off on their own, the non-human command, and the non-human diplomatic liaison team.
Okay, great. I'm glad we had that all laid out for us here, so I know where I fit in when the photon beam hits or whatever.
Except you don't, because I have no, what group would I belong? I don't know. That's not even, I don't fucking know. Anyway.
Consider your galactic human career here. Galactic Federation.
So here are my extremely generous things that were good for this book. It was edited. There were no typos. There was one. Sentences had syntax that is commonly understood in standard American English. It wasn't confusing for reasons of grammar. There were other reasons why it was confusing or felt unintelligible, but the words formed sentences with subjects and objects, and they used vocabulary that was easily understandable. There you go. Great. There are two other things I'll give it some credit for. One, there's this recurrent idea that's it's a focal point of the book that humans and cetaceans are stewards of the earth, and we have to share that stewardship with other creatures, and there's a recognition and respect for other creatures that aren't human and that they are important and intelligent. And I gotta say, a lot of these sort of woo-woo structures or concepts that we've encountered in the past always treat non-human animals as just garbage. But this book does actually seem to have this belief system does seem to have a real, genuine appreciation of the non-human animals and non-human environment on Earth, which I thought was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. Be nice to the animals, please.
Yeah, and the Earth. Don't fucking ruin it. I'll also give it the yeah, I know. I'll also give it the millimeter of validity in that you should be open to the idea that whatever kind of modern Western science or modern science looks like to you right now is not the beginning or end of understanding in a lot of respects, right? There's plenty of shit we haven't figured out yet. I don't think no one should waltz into a room and say, I have all the answers, or we have all the answers, or we figured it all out. It's very clear that humanity has not figured it all out. And that there's plenty of things that we still don't understand or know how to explain. And so, yeah, I think this whole idea in the book that you should be open to considering other perspectives is not a terrible one. I just think it is taken to an outrageous level. So, be open-minded but still critical. Don't just accept anything that wanders into your sphere of influence. I don't know, something walks into the room and you're yeah, maybe that's true.
It's a dinosaur. That must be an alien. There's no way. That can't have been a thing. It must be an alien.
Yeah. I guess maybe I should just jump to... okay, we're going to move to things that were bad now, right?
Yes, indeed we are.
Well, I guess I'm going to start with the things that were bad is that this whole, being open and receptive to, ideas that are kind of beyond what we currently understand with modern science or modern technology or whatever is, again, taken to an outrageous extreme, a ridiculous, silly, laughable extreme. And what's the worst part about it is that the author, Virginia, she softballs fucking questions at the alien through Sheldon, kind of accepts any answer, and then at the very end, in the afterword in the book, she's like, you really shouldn't just believe anything that people tell you. It's Virginia. Why was that not at the beginning of the book? Why was that not at the very beginning when you should have said, hey, I transcribed all this because I thought maybe it was kind of interesting and should be kept for some reason, but I don't necessarily believe all of it. You should be skeptical of it too. putting that in the afterword, no one reads the fucking afterwords of books. Like, people like me do, but I am not a regular reader.
We're out of our minds.
This is like, no, like, most people are not going to read deep into your afterword to find out that you're actually, the author themselves is actually skeptical of the content of the book. I just, what? If you didn't believe in this, if you didn't wholeheartedly believe in this Galactic Federation shit, then, like, you should have said that up front. This is another tactic that a lot of these kind of woo-woo predictors use to sneak their way out of blame, to say, like, oh, well, but at the end I said maybe it wasn't real. I did the just asking questions, or
I'm just asking aliens questions through my friend.
Yeah, I'm just asking aliens questions. Leave me alone. Is it illegal to ask aliens questions?
You can't sue me when the photon beam doesn't come in 1996.
Yeah, so that's something that stands out to me immediately as something that was bad. Chris, what kind of hit you right away?
I know we made the joke about the last minute Jesus earlier in here, but honestly, the third paragraph in this book hits you with, and yet Jesus' message was delivered to a society of human beings whose genes may have been damaged by the Atlantean genetic experiments thousands of years before his arrival. So when you read that sentence, like in paragraph 3 of a book, Paris, I feel like that's actually a service to you and I as terrible book readers. I appreciate this because you're cutting right to the thick of the fact that you're on such a high level of conspiracy theory, religion speedballs that I can immediately like relax and go, yeah, I'm not really going to try to make sense of any of this. I'm just going to let you take me for a ride. It's like when you go on a date and before the first drink is delivered, the other person starts talking about their taxidermied ant torso collection. No shade against people with like taxidermy insect collections. I'm just saying, sometimes when you get on a date and you can really quickly tell you're not going to connect, so you can just have the drink and be like, oh, my poodle shit its pants that I put on it all the time. And I have to go home and change my poodle's pants that it shit. Goodbye.
I'm so sorry. All of my buttons have disintegrated. I must leave. I think taxidermy's fine as long as there aren't other factors that would maybe make that concerning. There's a situation where a taxidermy or torso collection would be a red flag. Not on its own, but
yeah, for me, I was making that comparison in a way of like, you and I are just not gonna vibe together here. Yeah, so
same. Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe that was sort of a good thing about this book, is that it really showed its colors.
It's right away,
clearly.
Thank Jesus that we can be saved from the genetic experiments of the Atlanteans. And you're like, excuse me? Okay.
I mean, so after reading a little bit into this is just QAnon, but for like mid-90s internet forums. It's really just that. Like, you have this mysterious figure of Washta who is channeled through Sheldon, just like Q was channeled through a person or a couple people, right? Mm-hmm. And it's always this like these oh well, this is going to happen. All these predictions that don't come true.
The storm, the photon beam storm is coming.
Right. The photon belt, the storm, whatever. It's all the same. I mean, and these are similarities across conspiracies. They kind of follow this general formula most of the time. I mean, page 2 was wild. Chris already said paragraph 3 was wild. What was on page 2? I don't even remember. Here we go. Because of that great watery inundation, then, those located in the Middle East lost whatever data they had known about themselves and also about the nations in Asia, especially the greatest of all Earth civilizations, Lemuria. Since they had lost virtually all knowledge of Lemuria, they also had lost the records of Lemuria's later adversary, Atlantis. And it was the Atlanteans whose autocratic structure, in cooperation with renegade extraterrestrials, reduced the human species to a debilitated DNA genetic mutation of minimal capabilities. Thus, most of our struggling ancestors coped as best they could without their own former 12-helix DNA strands, which were now reduced to only 2 strands, a mere 1/6 of their previous capability. And all of this occurred right in the middle of a devastating planetary upheaval we can scarcely comprehend.
Yeah, right. So when you get hit with that real quick, at least you know. At least we know, and we thank you for not like slow rolling. Although it kind of almost is slow rolling because it just gets so out there, even as you go in further.
Yeah, I mean, I then started wondering to myself, like, can anyone explain to me how DNA can lose strands or gain strands?
This is a thing I just see in sci-fi novels or animes all the time where it's like, oh, he's more evolved because he has more DNA strands. And I've never seen anything in science that seems to imply that the more DNA strands you have, the more better good you are.
Well, I mean, like, in some ways, I don't think I would say better, but different, and could provide some other capabilities. Like, for example, we have discovered occasionally some triple helixes, and then there are some even rarer cases where we've discovered quadruple helixes. It's very rare in living humans, but the thought is that, like, those extra strands could provide like some protection. They could be doing something extra that we could then kind of deconstruct and find a way to recreate to protect people from genetic diseases or cancer or stuff like that. Yeah, it's I mean, you know, I'm not a fucking genetic scientist, but it doesn't seem reasonable to me to think that live humans can gain and lose helixes from their DNA.
And then if you had 12, you would be like psychically awoken. Like, it's just that it's the amount of my strands that are keeping me from being able to communicate telepathically with others.
You know, it's all about the strand, Chris. You know, some people's DNA just doesn't jive with the Syrians, but just got to get a different
once
strand.
You just start getting into like DNA and genetic stuff, it's like a real short step into some racism and eugenic stuff. So I tend to be very wary of stuff. As someone with a genetic disorder, that stuff always creeps me out a little bit when people start talking about like the better genes.
Yeah, so I don't know. That whole thing was really hard to accept. I mean, page 6 and 7 already, we're like, the book's going pretty hard on misunderstanding art styles for anatomy, which is kind of a common thing that happens with ancient alien stuff. Like, they see art styles where heads are elongated and they think, oh, that means they're aliens, and not that, oh, this was just a stylistic choice, or perhaps people did some kind of body modification to change their head shape, which is done in some cultures. No, it's aliens.
Harris,
it's aliens.
Imagine year 3000 woo-woo purveyors finding anime.
No.
They all had giant boobs and enormous eyes.
Their women were only allowed to wear skirts and no underwear, and all cameras were held below their knees. Yeah.
Oh my God, please. I would like to flash forward to the year 3000 to find the one person who's like, listen, if we all just get 14 DNA strands, we too can have eyes the size of pools that you can drop a quarter into and it would ripple. From there, we would awaken our abilities. See, I even found this old historical text called Dragon Ball Z. You can see that they've awoken.
Yeah. Anyway, just returning to the weird, like, racism shit that happens in this. So simultaneously, we've kind of got that classic meld of, but all humanity is the same. Therefore, racism and sexism and any kind of difference isn't, you know, we have to forget about all those things. We're all one human family. That somehow also coexisting with their very convenient maps of where the bad creatures were and the good creatures on Earth. And let me tell you,
guess.
So the bad dinosaurs and the bad reptile people, two distinct groups, by the way. Who knows? And then the good Earth humans are kind of they have this crude map where there's just like lines around where they existed, you know, and there's a note that's like, well, you know, of course the continents didn't look like this at that time, but this is where they would have been. And, you know, all the good Earth humans sure seem to be in the area where people's skin is like the color of sand or lighter, and then all the bad dinosaurs and reptile people definitely all everywhere else. Everywhere else. Yeah. Just, if you're not in Northeast Europe, yep. It's all the bad guys. So that was rough. I mean, and that's an unfortunate problem. It's another unfortunate problem with any kind of pseudoscience or conspiracy. Underneath it, there's always racism, anti-Semitism. It's always there. Just below the surface. Because I think it's a way to squirm your way. It's another way to kind of, like you were touching on with the whole genetic stuff, it's another way to sort of squirm your way to the idea that, the lighter people, the white people are special, superior, of another place. Even though this text is very clear that, like, it's all humans on Earth, like, all this stuff is steeped in late 19th century Western white ideas, frozen in time and devoid of larger context of the rest of scientific history, the planet, universe, and the rest of space. So it's always going to be stuck and mired in that kind of thinking, even though, the people themselves may not realize on the surface that it is. It's very clear. And this, again, is the same thing with ancient aliens. I mean, flat Earth, it's all there. It's all got this problem.
I mean, it even has the native people had simple lives that were better thing in here all over the place, too, which we've talked about before, so I'm not going to dive into that. But that's just a sort of extra little tag onto this journey that we're taking here through the classics of hidden shittiness.
For real.
All right, Paris. There's another classic thing in here, another classic woo-woo thing, and I've prepared a little bit of a segment for you here because I saw in your notes while you were reading today that you just had more Einstein quotes, God, why?
Oh, yeah, because every person who tries to sound smart just does a very cursory, brief glance at written ephemera and says, Einstein said that, sure. They never do the deeper checking to make sure that it's actually an Einstein quote. People will put fucking Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy. Any name you've heard of will be on a quote, and let me tell you, most of the time, all those famous people quotes you see were never actually said by that person. Or if they were, there's no way to verify it. So it's very likely that they are just all made up.
Yeah, so I thought we'd have a little fun here, and I just Googled Albert Einstein quotes.
Oh.
And now here we are on brainyquote.com with just a whole slew of things attributed to Albert Einstein here. So I thought we would just have a little fun detour here into the land of what can you put in this dude's mouth from, the 1930s to the 1950s or 60s, whenever he lived until. So here's a smattering of things that Albert Einstein said. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Albert Einstein. Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. Albert Einstein. Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Albert Einstein. Only two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the former. I feel like that's something I'd see on Facebook
that's definitely not a real one. I think I've looked that one up before.
I feel like I would see that on Facebook next to like a minion on a cartoon background. That person that posts like, I am smarter than all of you.
I mean, the quote that's actually used in the book is well, it's kind of rephrased, probably due to translation. It is, I only want to know the thoughts of God. Everything else is a footnote. And supposedly, in 1925, a student of Einstein's named Esther Solomon went on a walk with him, and that's when he said roughly that to her. Supposedly, she also wrote a memoir on Einstein. So I don't know. It's possible he never said that. I mean, she could have just made it up for the memoir because it sounded cool, right? Like we're never gonna know.
I have some more
if that was
totally
really
real
said.
Einstein quotes for you if you'd
But
like.
I mean, I do think that this one seems more legitimate, considering it came from one of his students, and it's possible that he could have said something like that, considering Einstein's thoughts on God and the nature of the universe and creation. Like, I think it's very feasible. Still, doesn't excuse it, because everyone just throws these fucking quotes around to try to sound smart and sound like, oh, they're very considered. They've read Einstein.
Mm-hmm. I've got some more quotes for you here, actually.
What else did quote-unquote Einstein say?
Here's a good one. You can't blame gravity for falling in love. Albert Einstein.
That doesn't sound real.
That sounds like a John Mayer lyric, dude. Like, are you sure that was Albert Einstein? All right, let me see if I can dig up anything else over here.
Body is a Boson particle.
E equals MC squared. All right, let me see if I can dig up some more here.
Oh, God. Is that the song with bubblegum toes that you hate so much?
It's bubblegum tongue, Paris. Jesus, you made it worse. God.
I don't know.
All right, okay, here's a good one. I found another. Here's another John Mayer fucking lyric from Albert Einstein. Any man who can drive safely while kissing a pretty girl is simply not giving the kiss the attention it deserves. So, I guess Albert Einstein... Noted roadhead connoisseur Albert Einstein.
I mean, maybe, but I mean that would have been dangerous in a 1920s car.
Don't worry, baby. I'm the smartest man alive. I got control of it.
Just putting your genitals at risk on those non-paved roads and shit without fucking shocks. Oh.
All right, let me see if I can get one more out of here. That's pretty good.
I was still thinking about bubblegum toes.
The hardest thing to understand in the world is the income tax. Albert Einstein. Bro, I think he was fine with the income tax. He was doing like some high level math. I think the income tax, he fucking got that one down.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, I fucking hate when people quote Einstein. So thanks for going.
Or John Mayer. Honestly, both of them. We should just start attributing shit to John Mayer all the time.
That's it. That's what I'm gonna do forever. All right. This is going to be a fugue state episode. We are just going to pass from one thought to another. We tried to group these together, but it was tough, man. It was tough.
How about the complete overdoing upheaval of chakras that we see in here?
Yeah, so this was a pretty funny connection to Afterlife Love. So if you haven't heard the Afterlife Love episode, in that book there is a postulation that humanity has 8 levels of consciousness or 8 dimensions or something. And in this book there's also 8, but they're inverted from the other one. So it's like, which fucking one is correct?
Oh, you're telling me that the woo-woo people don't agree with each other about their particular ways that they steal from other cultures?
Yeah, clearly they didn't get on the same fucking dimension on that one. So that was pretty funny. And of course their concepts of these are totally different. And in Afterlife Love, we did have some channeling of beings through the author's friend or something, although I feel like it was just the author, but whatever. And then in this book, we have channeling through the author's friend, and the descriptions of these dimensions and chakra shit is just totally different. So one group of aliens is lying to you, y'all. Like, at least one.
There are 2
maybe both
groups
of
aliens at the end of the road, and one of them only tells the truth, and one of them only tells lies. How do you actually manifest your 12 strands of DNA and have sex in the afterlife?
Yeah, this was a point I was going to get to later, but since it's just kind of come up naturally here, I'm always surprised by how willing people are to just believe someone who's like, hello, I am an alien. This is the truth. Aliens would have plenty of reasons. They would have an equal number of reasons to lie to us as they would to tell us the truth. So I don't understand just the immediate, like, oh, this must be right.
it baffles me to my core, Paris, because it gets down into the same reason why I don't understand why people will just read something that cites nothing except, well, my friend told me, and roll with it. You gotta give me something else. Is it just like, I wish there was something more and this sounds fun, so I'll go with that? Is it just that?
It has to be. I mean, there's no other real explanation.
But like unconsciously, right? Like they're doing that unconsciously.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think there's a lot of, obviously there's been a lot of like psychological and sociological study of this sort of phenomenon amongst people and their willingness to believe conspiracies or kind of be gullible in certain situations, right? And it is a bummer, and it does perplex me. Despite all the reading I've done about it, I still find it just like, I understand all the constituent reasons, but I can't accept it. Like, I still just don't get how people get so far into it. Like, I could understand being curious or maybe a little gullible naturally and being like, oh, okay, but then after you hear more than a few paragraphs or a few sentences in a book or pages in a book, why do you not go and consult another thing? I don't understand.
And if there's like some alternate histories in here, you would expect that maybe something out there would kind of corroborate at least a piece of it, but it seems like both Sheldon and the author here, the main author, I forget what her name was, Virginia. They're just going, I mean, obviously Sheldon wants to do it because it turns out, Paris, by the way, he was the leader of a religious organization where he was trying to convince people that the photon beam was coming. That was on his Wikipedia page that I looked up.
Well, that's what we're reading. Yeah, it's the same thing. That's the publishing group. Yeah.
But it went religion. Past, like, after this, he kept trying to do it, is what I'm saying. Like, after the photon beam thing didn't happen, he just kept going with it. He splintered off into like something else.
Well, he and Virginia, I think, had a falling out.
They did.
And then she kept the name of whatever it was in this book, I forget. And then he called it something else. He actually, I think, had a stroke in 2011. But according to his webpage, all right, so the website is so far down in the Google search results that I had to keep going for a little bit there. Wow. So apologies.
Truly in the dustbin.
According to this website, which is powweb.com, PAOWEB.com, what happened to Sheldon Nidle? On March 17, 2011, Sheldon's health took a sudden downturn. As he sat at the computer, he was hit with a direct energy weapon that caused marked personality changes, brain damage, and eventually dementia. By September 2020, his health had deteriorated further, and he entered a care facility where he now lives. So now it's two random other people who are carrying on his shit, and this poor man probably had a stroke or had Alzheimer's or something, and he just kept powering through, and they're like, no, he got hit with a direct energy weapon.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll take your word for it, because I've been taking everyone else's word for everything my entire life.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
That is stuff like that is a bummer, right? Where it's like,
it sucks.
Even if Sheldon really believed this stuff, I gotta feel like some of the people under here that said, like, yeah, now's our chance to take over, there's a higher chance that they're just grifty as fuck, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, it's too bad because I'm just speculating here, but this this book also has the very dangerous idea that humans can think their way out of anything. So if you have a life-altering condition like bone cancer or a brain tumor, you can just think your way out of it. If you believe enough, you'll be fine.
And hey, listen, positive mental attitude does work for quite a few things, and it might even help with recovery for some certain things. Maybe big, huge asterisk on that, but it is absolutely not all you have to do, and you'll be fine if you just been like thumbs up and smile. It's gonna be okay.
Right, like, placebo studies have been done. Prayer studies have been done about how if people are generally in a more positive mindset and really believe that something is going to help them, it can provide some marginal results, but it doesn't cure anything. It doesn't mean you don't seek medical attention. Mm-hmm. But of course, that's what books like this advocate. And so, yeah, I can only wonder what happened to that guy. Speaking of Sheldon, why was he the special kid that aliens picked to reveal their big plans to when he was like 7? What was that about?
That's the other thing about believing stuff like this when you read it. It's like, why would they pick some 7-year-old? Out of everyone else on Earth, there is no one more qualified to talk to aliens than 7-year-old Sheldon.
Yeah, I don't know.
You would think the highly advanced species would find the one person that like could spread the message.
Was also involved at first, and then she, I don't know, stopped getting alien messages. There's nothing more on that. So
maybe it was just the fact that she was younger than him and she was playing along with her brother, and then she got older and she's like, actually, I don't know about this, Sheldon.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, I mean, I don't have siblings, so I don't really know what that's like, but yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. And there's also like, and he when he's briefly talking about this before we get into the whole channeling thing, he's like, oh yeah, I'm the special guy, and the aliens came to me and they told me I was real cool and that I was going to help rescue humanity. And then
listen, kids, don't take strange advice from strangers that come from another galaxy to tell you that you're the special kid that we will give all the information. Don't get in that UFO van. Don't
get in that white UFO with no windows. Don't do it. Don't take it. Don't take the candy. So after that, he says, nonetheless, these messages and experiences began to create some degree of conflict within me. Syrians continued to demonstrate an advanced science that appeared to be almost magical, and they explained concepts about the formation of the galaxy that made Earth-human cosmology completely erroneous in its theories about the universe. Spoiler, he never tells us what those are. As they told me more about the elements of their science, it accentuated my conflict between their knowledge and that of Earth science and its related cosmology. This conflict was created by my many years of involvement in summer science achievement programs that were established during the immediate post-Sputnik era, 1958 to 1961, and by my own voracious reading in all branches of science. I was reading university physics texts and advanced college texts on anthropology at age 7. Ooh, big brains, big brain moment. Yeah.
But were you comprehending and retaining that information, Sheldon?
Yeah, and he talks about how he took advanced courses in calculus and physics and chemistry. However, this opportunity was ended by my freshman year in college when a deep personal conflict developed between the vice chairman of the physics department and myself. We disagreed over the formulation of Isaac Newton's mechanics theorems and their usage in modern cosmology as well as in subatomic physics.
Oh my god.
This conflict forced me to change my major from physics to political science with minors in anthropology, sociology, and various area study programs. During my senior year, I felt drawn to specialize in Southeast Asia history studies, which included the nations of Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia. After completing my master's in 1970, I left academia in search of work. But tough economic times and my ability to obtain only dead-end jobs led to a decision to study for a PhD in Southeast Asian studies. Anyway, he gave up on his PhD to make a movie about Nikola Tesla. That's how that ends.
Okay.
I mean, Tesla's cool, but
I really like the idea of this dude coming into like a freshman college level physics course and being like, actually, I think Newton might have been wrong about gravity, and the professor being like, oh my fucking god, will you just...
Well, science is ever changing, and the only way it evolves is through challenging ideas that we think are settled. And so if he had a model, an explanation to show, great, but there is nothing in this book. There is no alternate...
You show up in class and was like,
no,
actually, Washta told me that the photon beam, and the professor was like, I think we have a problem here, son.
Yeah, so this is the problem. It's like, if you can come up with a working challenge to a current scientific theory, fucking yeah, man, that's science. Like, if you can replicate it and do it, great. But like, just strolling into class and saying, I don't believe Newton, and having nothing else to say beyond that is horseshit. That like, you can't. That's not how any of this works. So yeah, the author kind of set himself up for failure, for I guess in our opinion anyway.
And then the physics professor was like, well, son, Albert Einstein once said that you should kiss a girl while you're driving a car. So why don't you try that out for size?
Yeah, go for it.
That physics professor was John Mayer. Speaking about the photon belt thing, that didn't happen, as we mentioned before.
Oh,
It didn't.
yeah.
It
Well, they're
really
also
didn't happen.
like as far as I can tell. Hang on. Let's talk a little bit about what another classic element of, all these kind of woo-woo beliefs and conspiracies is always these like either vague promises, predictions that don't come true, or both. We get both here. The prediction that didn't come true was a Earth passing through a photon belt in 1995 or 1996. And I am not an astrophysicist. I am not an astronomer. I am not a physicist. I do not really know much about space science. However, I can read things. And in reading things, I immediately was thrown off by photon belt because photons are they're just a boson particle that's like a measure of electromagnetic energy. So I didn't really understand how there could be a belt of them.
But why would there be a
really
concentration of it that was moving through space?
Yeah, it didn't really make sense to me. So I was like, all right, maybe I'm, because like I said, I'm not confident in my understanding. So I was like, all right, let me read about this. And yeah, that's not, photon belts aren't a thing.
What about the cool belt I won at the fair that says Photon Master on it? That's my photon belt.
Yeah, I guess you can make a photon belt on your own. So photon belts aren't a thing, and from what I read, I think what this is a misunderstanding of the visually of what pictures of the Pleiades star cluster looks like. So they're talking about anomalies near the star cluster, and that's where the photon belt is, and it's coming, oh lord, it's coming. And the Pleiades they have a nebula, a gas cloud, and it's not photons, it's just dust and hydrogen and shit. It's just debris. And obviously when we're taking pictures in space, things can look a little funny, right, compared to how we see them on Earth. And I'm assuming that what happened is they saw pictures of this, someone did, and was oh, it's clearly bands of light. And then they were I don't know, photon sounds like a cool word for light, and it's none of that. It's just some shit floating around the Pleiades. So
is this a galactic scale version of when people talk about orbs in their photos, which is just a dust speck on the lens?
Yeah, actually that's not quite, but very similar. Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. And I looked into this, and it seemed like this whole photon belt thing was first published in some random magazine from Australia in 1981, and then it was repeated in a 1991 article in a different magazine, and that's where it kind of gained real steam in sort of this movement. So photon belts that's not a thing. It just was made up one time. It got republished 10 years later, and then it took off, kind of like fucking internet shit does now. And I found, I will say I'm not sure of the veracity of the article that I found, because there's no real author on it. It was just a collective of people who debunked things in the 70s through the early 2000s. But in any case, one of these people, part of this collectives, actually tracked down the head of the Australian UFO Society that published that original article in 1981, and talked to them and said that it was co-authored by a quote-unquote middle-aged mother and a college undergraduate.
Oh, the finest of scientific minds.
Yeah, so clearly, and not that a middle-aged mother couldn't also be an astrophysicist, but the suggestion here is that these are two people who did not have the expertise to be talking about planetary bodies and astrophysics, right? So, photon belt, not a thing. It's not a thing. What they're looking at is shit around the Pleiades stars cluster. And furthermore, they're talking about how the Earth is going to head towards the Pleiades. But actually, as far as we understand the universe and space physics, the Earth is actually moving away from them.
Oh no, my photon belt. My 10 extra helixes, no.
Yeah, so they got the thing wrong and the direction wrong. Not to mention, like, their whole thing. I should probably just pop to the point in the book where they kind of describe, like, oh, in 1995 or 1996, you guys are going to go to the photon belt, and like, okay, here we go. You know what? I'm just going to read like the whole start of this chapter because that's going to give you the real flavor of what we've got going on here. All right. Chapter 2, the photon belt. Washta and 2 other Syrian council members would now like to discuss an incredible physical as well as spiritual event that's presently approaching Earth. Washta is a galactic presence who is in training as a new Syrian ascended master. God damn it, they got the trainee on the job. Oh, that's
they didn't even
worse.
Send out their best down over here.
Yeah, well, you know, the hierarchy, man. You're just working for Target in space.
Right? Didn't report to the correct people, so they're sending out. Listen, you talk to the random 7-year-olds.
When he completes this book project, Washta will be promoted to a full-fledged ascended master. He is joined in this presentation by Omtron and Teletron, Syrian experts on science and history, but throughout the book, Washta will be the only council speaker. And then it switches to kind of their voice. We are here to share the fact that your solar system is presently poised to enter a vast region of light called the photon belt sometime during a period between March of 1995 and December of 1996. This photon belt, a huge mass of light, will be the vehicle for your restoration to full consciousness and for the complete transformation of your DNA and chakra systems. These unbelievable changes will forever alter not only yourselves, but also your planet and your solar system. This is because the photon belt will move your solar system into a higher dimension from 3rd to the 5th, allowing your planet within the solar system to move to a new position in space closer to the Sirius star system. At this point, you may be asking, what is this photon belt? Why haven't I heard about it before? If it's this important, why aren't our scientists discussing it? The photon belt, a huge torrid-shaped object composed of photon light particles, was first discovered by your scientists in 1961 near the vicinity of the Pleiades by satellite instrumentation. Throughout this book, we usually speak of your Earth entering the photon belt and sometimes of the photon belt moving toward Earth. The reality is that your solar system and the photon belt are moving toward each other. I mean, here's the thing. If there was a giant, somehow contained cluster of light, and it did, Earth did pass through it, I mean, it would change us forever by, giving us a pretty hardcore sunburn. Like, it'd be pretty crispy. I think that's...
Right, like, why does... Did he confuse something about getting skin cancer as, like, evolving your genes or something? Like, because assumedly, photons are light, which includes, like, UV light or, like, just, like, regular sunlight. Some part of that is similar. So what he's trying to say is this mega dose of light particles is somehow going to help us regain our helixes, and there's some like thymus gland reorganization happening, like literal like evolution steps happening in the space of like a couple months, helped along by these aliens that are watching over us. By the way, in the whole book they're talking about how the aliens have been watching over Earth, and that's why we're here to help you. And that's a whole other can of worms that I'm sure we can crack into here. But that's also the other disconnect is why would light cause evolution? Wouldn't then just standing outside in the sun or like hyperdosing people with UV light do the same thing?
Great question, Chris. I don't know. Maybe because it's not, I don't know, a special concentration around a star cluster. Fuck if I know. Doesn't make any sense.
You had too much salt in your light. Now you're just too salty and burn. That's really what it was.
It doesn't make any sense. So, I don't know. So all of that, just absolute bullshit. And they're saying that like, oh, when you pass through the belt, there's going to be 3 full days of darkness and then 24-hour daylight until 2013 and no electricity or water movement in that time.
That seems bad.
How would passing through a fucking burning belt of light cause 3 days of full darkness? That part I'm really struggling.
It's because it's space light, and space is dark, right? So it's the space light is dark, actually, and the photons would cancel out the sun.
I guess maybe if. Well, it wouldn't create a shat. I don't know. I can't.
Don't try, Paris. Don't try.
It's hurting. It hurts. But considering Chris and I lived through the years 1995, 1996,
and most of you did as well. It's
2013.
Not just unique to us.
We were all there. None of that happened.
Albert Einstein was there. John Mayer was there. Yeah. We were all.
Nah, Einstein died before then. But it just so clearly, obviously didn't happen. And especially because, this book was published in 94, so it was a pretty short period of time. I don't know, what was their plan when the jig was up? I don't know. They just kept moving the numbers back. I mean, that's what they all do. That's what all these groups do.
It's the classic
saying,
maneuver
whoopsies. Oh, no, something happened. The aliens had a whoopsie. They had to deal with some other invasion, so they had to move the ascendance of humankind back another year again.
Listen, all that middle management stuff got fucked up right in the middle. Our projections have been delayed here. Dave up in the second layer of Galactic management just really didn't get those reports out in time. So listen, you guys are going to have to wait another, at least a couple years until we can get those helixes back on. All right. Just so we'll see you later. We'll keep the money though.
It doesn't matter even.
All right. There's a couple other things in here that absolutely did not make any fucking sense to me.
Yeah, go for it.
So there's two things. Firstly, there was a section where we mentioned in the summary where they used fusion reactors to blow shit up, and that was around dinosaur times. Apparently, there was the mass catastrophic event that got rid of the dinos, or perhaps the reptoid aliens, which are different. Once again, those are different things.
Yeah, they're different. We don't really know why, but they're
This
they're
was
different.
like some kind of suicide mission by the Lemurians, who are the good aliens, to get rid of all the reptoids by blowing up fusion reactors they had, and that's what really got rid of the dinosaurs. But I feel like if you're going to do that and you're going to have all this stuff, the comet impacting Earth theory works just fine. And I think they actually do say that later, that like they used the energy of the fusion things to...
No. So I'm not sure which of us is confused, but page 91 and 92, there's text and a diagram.
I understood it to be like they just blew up a bunch of fusion reactors they had, which is really what eliminated the reptoids / dinosaurs.
No. Page 91 and 92. So the Atlanteans came up with a plan to destroy Lemuria and to take control. And so they waited patiently and they executed their plan. At that particular time, 25,000 years ago, the Earth had 2 moons, each one of which was roughly 3/4 the size of your present moon. What the renegades proposed to do was to move one of these 2 moons into a downward spiraling orbit using force fields. Before this moon reached a critical mass position, the Lagrange point, with the Earth, it would be exploded so that it would fall down as an incredible shower of meteors upon the Lemurian continent. This event would cause gravitational and plate tectonic distress because of the size, downward path, and mass of the lunar fragments. This development did, in fact, create a volcanic catastrophe that caused the great gas chambers underneath Lemuria to implode, sink the continent, and destroy Lemurian dominance.
I think that was a separate thing later on from the dinosaur fusion reactor blow up.
I do remember fusion reactors, so let's see.
Listen, the timeline that we are presented with here is very murky and inconsistent. I feel like they jumped around a lot, so I don't feel bad about not quite getting it straight.
So the cetaceans imploded their fusion generators to kill the dinoid and reptoids. 98% of them, they were killed when their things.
Okay, so I confused the Lemurians and the cetaceans.
This was 8 to 10 million years ago. So 2 different incidents. Sorry.
I see.
Excuse me. Not that it really resolves your question.
No, but point still stands of like why, if you're gonna just use the same fusion energy to say that's what the comet impact was, because if there's really just that one impact site, as far as I remember from when I had to do a little project on this in like a freshman archaeology course or something like that.
Oh, you're talking about the
KT.
comet that was that was like I actually don't know because I didn't study Paleolithic stuff.
I did a project on the KT event, which is basically that huge crater that they're like that. They're pretty sure that's the one that did it. It hit over there. So I feel like multiple fusion reactors going off would leave some evidence, much like the KT event. So if you're going to try to sell me this shit, just say it was like they used the comet, right? Like just...
Yeah, I agree with you. It would have been much cleaner to just do that.
Why add this layer? On top of that, the other thing was the firmaments thing that popped up at some point in here as well.
Bad.
I'm not going to try to put this in the right time frame, but at some point in this alternate Earth history, there were firmaments, which are giant ice spheres that enveloped the Earth, which prevented rain and made it so it was always sunny, no clouds, and light winds were happening.
It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
So, like, they also say earlier that they rely on the Bible for some, like the floods and whatnot. So if you think that's a good source for historical fact, why would that not ever be mentioned in the Bible? And they mention rain and clouds and high wind happening in the Bible. Never mind the fact that rain is a necessary part of plant life and animal life. And you're just going to hand wave that away with like, oh, well, they got all that from the prana energy in your kundalini sex force, which once again comes up here.
Kundalini sex force.
It's back again.
We're back. We're back, better than ever.
Yeah, so just like this stuff in here that's like needlessly complicating your woo-woo stuff just so we can like make sure we get every possible item involved, like smart dolphins and reptoid aliens and the grays of like space science and God and Jesus.
I mean, I think with the firmaments thing, I'm unclear if that was supposed to be like before the events in the Bible or during, but in any case, they talk more than once about how, oh yeah, in this perfect world, there was no rain and it was always sunny. And I was like, why would that? Why? Yeah, like you said, like why? But things need that to exist. And they're like, oh, but energy is such a vague. You can't just say but energy. Energy can mean what kind of energy? The energy plants get from light through photosynthesis?
And the water that they would need, and some plants need more water than others, so if it was just the same environment all over the place, that would cause problems for the ecosystems and diversity of life?
Yeah, there's just like such an abuse of the word energy, like and all this woo-woo shit. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, they also have this obsession with cetaceans, which, are whales and dolphins, which are generally smarter non-human creatures that have, culture and language and advanced ways of thinking and being. And like they have this thing where they're like, yeah, dolphins and whales have like evolved past the base desires and humans need to too. They're just so pure, those whales and dolphins. And I don't know if anyone told them about how like horny dolphins are and about how they don't really give a shit about consent or species.
Dolphins are some of the horniest motherfuckers out there, in fact.
Yeah, it's pretty
bad. They are not beyond those base desires one bit.
No, they're actually quite sexually aggressive. So this is just people romanticizing a creature that they don't know anything about. It's like all they did was see those Lisa Frank folders in 1994 and it was all over.
They heard that they were kind of smart and they're like, oh, clearly they must be evolved beyond their base desires when... No, not at all, actually. Not at all. Maybe if the dolphins stopped fucking all the time, they would have redeveloped their fusion reactors.
Maybe.
If Dolphin Albert Einstein was out there to tell the other dolphins to not kiss other dolphins in dolphin cars.
Yes, if only. I mean, there's just so many things that are inconsistent in this. We already mentioned Lemuria and Atlantis, and yeah, it's that again. I mean, a lot of this is all just sort of elements of the Bible, Egyptian myth and history, Greek myth and history, Sumerian myth. It's a lot of things just slammed together, with no commonality. There's no explanation for like, but why would these things be related? It's just like, oh yeah, they all are related and they're all the same thing and they're all from the cool alien guys that are helping us because we're just like the coolest planet. Like, oh my God, the aliens, they said
we're the special planet that's going to get the photon belt. That's why they're all helping us out over here.
He told me that he was going to give me a contract, Washta. I mean, he sounds like he's kind of up there in the
You're
echelon.
the most beautiful planet out in here in existence. I'm going to get you a nice 12 helixes for you. I'm
my God, that's 10 more helixes than I have now.
I'm going to buy you all the good stuff, man. I'm going to get you the photon belts. I'm going to take you. I'm going to get you a job in the highest echelons of the Galactic management. Don't worry, man.
Oh my God, Washington's going to get me a photon. Can you believe that? I'm going to be the first planet in this solar system with a photon belt. Take that, Saturn. Get out of here.
Who cares about your rings? Washington took me to meet Dolphin John Mayer. It was so cool.
My belt's made of light. Fuck you. Anyway, all right. So, that attitude, I mean...
Oh my God, I just thought about your bubblegum blowhole.
It's hot and I'm sad. And that is very terrifying.
All right. Guys, there's so much more on this list of notes, but I don't want to cover every single.
It's not that much longer. It's not that much longer. I just wanted to talk quickly about how unbelievable their accounts are of things. So again, it's this just mishmash of any major civilization you've heard of that's in kind of, areas that kind of the regularly trodden stuff, right? We got Egypt, Sumeria, we've got a little bit of India in here, a little bit of Greek stuff. It's all in there. And they're saying that, it's all related. They're all from the aliens, whatever. So their take is that humans, like our human species, began on Vega, or in the Vega system, where, I don't know, were we like sea creatures or something before? I forget. I think that's what they said,
There was like aquatic primate stuff happening.
Yes, we were aquatic primates. And we came over and founded Lemuria in 900,000 BC. And then Atlantis and other like colonies arose in 500,000 BC. And then Atlantis destroyed Lemuria in 25,000 BC. So like, they kept saying like on Vega and in Vega, and I was like, yo, Vega's a star, and it's just like our sun. It's actually much larger than our sun. So I don't really know how like carbon-based life could exist on a roiling, burning, enormous star. And then later they were like, oh, in the Vega system, and I was like, oh, so they're postulating that humans come from an undiscovered planet in the small Vega star system, and it turns out science hasn't completely ruled out the existence of a planet or planets there, but a planet existing near Vega doesn't mean that super advanced carbon-based life exists there and that it had the capability to visit Earth 900,000 years ago, right? Like just maybe if there is a planet over there, that doesn't prove the rest of this. It's still pretty hard to believe. And
no, but Washta told me. He promised me that everything would be okay.
And the Lemuria and Atlantis, I mean, these are all theories from the late 19th century postulated to account for things that we didn't understand at the time. Lemuria in particular was an explanation for certain types of primate fossils being in India and Madagascar, but not in the Middle East or Africa. And a few years later, once theories of plate tectonics and continental drift surfaced, that completely discredited this idea that, like, the whole Lemuria thing, I should explain, the larger theory of that was, they were just masses of land bridges everywhere, and they just kind of sunk. And that's why things are in disparate places now. But, after a few decades, we figured out, plate tectonics make way more sense, and, like, continents moving around over long periods of geological time is a more sensible explanation for that, right? Because otherwise we'd be finding continents under the water all the time. So instead of there must have been land here that sunk, we now understand that lands in X and Y spot used to be connected but aren't anymore due to geological forces on a grand scale of time. And to be clear, there are places that have been overtaken by water. Like, there are lands that have sunk, but none of them...
There's going to be more of it soon.
Yeah. Yep. Turns out we were Atlantis all along, which is actually one of the theories. But none of these places that have sunk really match the location, description, or time for Lemuria or Atlantis. The closest we've come with Lemuria is Mauritia, which was a small, like, dwarf continent that did sink in kind of that area, but it doesn't line up with primate evolution. Like, it wouldn't have explained the primate fossils, so that can't be right. Yeah, so womp womp on that. And to further complicate this whole thing, different people attribute different locations to Lemuria and Atlantis. And so there's no consistency. There's no one belief that is like, yeah, we believe this. It's all over the fucking place, especially with Atlantis.
Almost as if it's not backed by any evidence.
No. This book is a twist on these myths too, where the two are like enemies, which I don't know, it's their own little spin on it, I guess. And none of this is consistent with anything folks have discovered so far. And like, combined with all the falsehoods and various levels of incoherence, it's just like, it's such a challenge to take seriously. It's just a pile-on of stuff. And the whole like, oh, well, there were big destructive events and it destroyed all the evidence. So
don't ask.
That's why we can't find it. It's just like laughable.
Washington's not lying to me. Don't ask.
Like, it's just so much on top of a mountain already made of shit that like I don't know how you could continue to go along with each of these points. It seems kind of impossible.
All right, Paris. Is there anything left here? Honestly.
No, let's talk about the Time Lords.
Sure. I
want to talk about the Time Lords.
So, yeah, the Doctor Who Time Lords. No, just that there's the concept of Time Lords are some aspect of the management structure, and I really just singled them out in my notes here because of the claim that literally every atom in existence has a specific Time Lord dedicated to it to keep it manifesting. So why is that a Time Lord? Why isn't it just like a atom lord or a material lord, right? Like, why does time have to come
why
into
does
it
every atom need a lord? That is so
really
overly
split the fiefdom into like the absolute maximum split that we could do. On top of that, like later on, Time Lords also dictate governing structures in this management system.
Yeah.
So like, why are they saddled with both gigs here?
They applied for their galactic internships last, Chris. I don't know what to tell you.
Yes,
like they didn't get
just
there in
stuff
time.
like that makes me feel like you're just not really thinking about this at all. And, you know, I suppose, yes, it relates to you through Washington, but just like, I don't think in the Q&A sections that happen at the end of chapters between Virginia and Washington, she's not even like, wait, why would that Time Lords be responsible for two things at once? Like, it's manifesting every atom into existence seems like a pretty big deal that they should be specializing in. I feel like being in charge of your atom in, you know, like the dick hair of some dude in Washington in 1937. Why does that Time Lord also have to be responsible for managing the governance of the Galactic Federation at the same time?
You know, Chris, funding is down and they are doing the best they can. They have combined departments. It's a mess. It's a mess over there.
Yeah. So stuff like that. This is part of that pylon thing, right? Where they're just trying to cram every single culture and woo-woo thing in here, perhaps as a way to try to get more people on board. I think that was the same thing with Afterlife Love. It's like, just let everyone start contributing money. Yeah, you're cool. You're cool. You're cool. Let's all get in here. And help Wash to pay for his car payment or his UFO car payment. He just promised me if I loaned him the $2,000 that he'd get me that photon belt next month.
Well, I mean, how else is he going to get the white paneled UFO with no windows?
Right.
And so, I mean, speaking of like inconsistencies and the piling on, all of a sudden in like the last 20% of the book, they're like, And then the underground people who are the leftovers of Lemuria. And you're like, I'm sorry, excuse me? What? What? There are people who live underground? And they're like, yeah, all the people who live underground who are the survivors of the Lemurian destruction. And they're under the specific mountain or something. I forget where it is. Just all of a sudden. I mean, and then also, sort of in the same breath, the book has said, oh, yeah, and all the major monuments around the world, like pyramids and stuff, and the Bermuda Triangle, they're all points on a crystal grid. I mean, this is beyond kitchen sink. This is beyond everything in the kitchen sink. This is like all the restaurants in the entire world's kitchens and their sinks just constantly coming at you.
You're becoming a galactic kitchen sink woo-woo purveyor.
You are becoming a galactic restaurant depot.
That's really what this title means, is you're just trying to encompass all possible woo-woo into your body. And once you can do that, you have truly become a galactic human.
Maybe you're right.
If you can just let that cognitive dissonance go by, you will have unlocked your 12th DNA strand.
Some of my favorite little things were there's a point really late in the book where they're like, oh, by the way, like the devas or whatever, which is a kind of, I don't know, angelic deity that isn't an angel or it's its own thing. They keep all the data safe, and I was like, oh my god, I'm a David guard. That's what I am. That's what I do. I've ascended. Keep the data safe.
Yeah, they have the galactic raid arrays. Like I said, they got raid 10. They're striping and they're mirroring at the same time.
And another of my favorite points was all of a sudden towards the very end, they're like, oh, by the way, offspring can only be conceived February through August while the whales and dolphins are singing. And I was like, that's so obviously not true. People are fucking and having babies, September through January. I don't know. What do you mean?
Everyone that's outside of that birthday is just not a galactic human. I'm sorry.
I guess. And, they're just, really appropriately vague. At the end, they're trying to say, oh, and here's, this whole book is supposed to be, to help you prepare for, the coming of the photon belt, Christ, whatever, all that shit. And yet, it doesn't actually tell you any of that. It just gives you all this, fake history. And at the very end, they say, oh, yeah, you can prepare by finding other people who are into this, meditating, eating a proper light diet and getting adequate hydration. And there's zero instruction on meditation, the amounts of hydration, or, what they even mean by a proper light diet. So you aren't preparing people with this text.
Do you think they meant light as in light in material, or do you think they meant light as in the people that are like, I will just consume sunlight?
No, they definitely meant because they're healthy or whatever, but health, that doesn't mean anything. There's no one definition for that. It's all over the place. I mean, even the furries enter on page 170. They arrive. They got in there because they say that there's a race of people who are a race of elevated beings who are lion people, and then there's turtle people, and this is another. There's no.
Everyone's included. Everyone, come on in.
Here.
Give me your money, please. Every one of you is allowed to give me money.
And then they throw a Jung quote in at the end. They got Einstein at the beginning and Jung at the end. You got to just get them in there while you can.
And Jung said, your psyche is a wonderland where I use my hands.
Oh, and we got that LMJ right at the end. Just a little dose.
There's a direct quote from Jesus at the end, right? It's
Well, that's because Virginia's earlier book was her channeling Christ.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Or I forget I think it was her that was channeling, or she transcribed someone else channeling Christ, something like that. So yeah, can't escape Jesus. It's always Jesus.
The first minute Jesus and the last minute Jesus. Real Jesus sandwich over here. Anyway, Paris, we've done this woo-woo dance so many times here
it's a lot of dancing.
So
a lot of wooing.
I'm so tired of this shit, especially the kitchen sink version, where, like, again, trying to include everything really just feels like trying to encompass everyone that you can in the grift, right? Just trying to get everyone in here. So, oh yeah, you're welcome in here too. And I guess cool for being inclusive, but when it's just bullshit levels like this and you're not even trying to reconcile anything, I am so tired of this. I am so tired of this. And I guess the way you fix it is just by improving everyone's critical thinking, even just the base level of, like, can I find a second source that says anything about this that corroborates this?
Well, yeah, and I mean, not only, like, yeah, I don't know.
Aren't you tired, Paris?
Yeah, I am tired. This is the end of season 8, and I'm tired. I don't know. This is unfixable, right?
Yeah.
We can't fix this. Sorry, go ahead.
At this point, I'm just saying, like, I made the joke at the start, but we have become terrible humans at this point, Paris, by, like, having to slog through so much of this woo-woo stuff. Like, I'm not going to make it a policy. Who knows? Maybe someone will find something interesting, but just, like, we are probably going to not do as much of this stuff in the future unless it's, like, a really wacky angle that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, we've got a lot of it. It's not. I mean, we've done
we've hit it all.
Multiple aliens this season. We've done
interdimensional travel and chakras and all that stuff.
Yeah, it would have. We even did that. I forget if that was last year. The health guy. The Genesis diet. Yeah, I think I'm done with this sort of stuff unless there's a real compelling argument to dive into a different pool of muck.
Yeah, this one just really covered all the bases for us, I feel like, so that we shouldn't have to redo much at all. But who can say truly where the depths will lead us with Terriblo's gaze?
Well, thanks, Ken, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, thank you to Ken for allowing us to get it all out here so that we can possibly say, like, oh, we've already done that in the future.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I will thank Ken for kind of getting this through our system. I'll treat it like he gave us the flu and now we're over it.
This is a vaccination.
Yeah.
That we've given. Okay, well, I truly feel like a galactic terrible human here, but hopefully our patrons here also feel the same way. I don't know if that's a nice thing to say or not.
No. I hope they feel like just regular people. I don't want them to feel galactic because I don't want them to feel like some alien's going to save them. Because
you are becoming a normal, regular Earth human. You're in the local cluster. Everything's cool. Anyway, thank you to Greg, Veronica, Will, Dee, Jared, Arant, Senia, Jakub, Lycoris, Elliot, Kieran, Martin, Jay, Luchek, Miri, Yanka, David, Julius, Anya, Patricia, Austin, Donnie, Beast with the Least, Scott H, Robin, Laxtodes, Of the Void, The Taco Eating Unicorn, Last Man on Earth 01, Funny Robot with Antennas, Hobbyboy93, Harry, Mason, Renee, Emmy, The Ugly One, Bleach Black Cat, Julius the Nice Dragon, Eastern Swiss, Rudy Bo Booty, Ben Durgan Guitar, Emily, and our Ko-fi donor, Kiwi. Thanks for sticking out with us for another season of Terrible Book Club. We really appreciate your support. It is mid-July now. You'll be hearing this close to Christmas time. So enjoy your holidays, everyone, whatever you're doing. Hopefully you're taking a break. It's traditional for people to be taking a break around now, and so are we. We're taking a super long break from reading terrible books. I've been reading a bunch of good books recently to sort of prepare myself for this long, lengthy thing here and just, actually get into the good space. So hopefully you guys are doing the same thing.
Yeah, I guess because, it is mid-July. We really crammed all the recording in early in the year because Chris and I have had a lot of music stuff going on, a lot of personal stuff, health, relationships, a lot of big changes. So we figured it would be great to just get all this done in a condensed fashion and give ourselves 4 months off. So that's what we have done. It's a little funny because we're recording these so early that by the time we're back, we're going to have to do like a life update episode just for patrons or something that's like So this is all the shit that happened last year.
We've become galactic humans, actually. The photon belt thing happened. Shit.
Oh, yeah. That's what happened, yeah. I mean, I guess the condensed version is that, like, Chris and I are both playing summer festivals. I'm getting married. Chris moved in with his partner.
I'm doing a career change, possibly.
Career
We're both
change.
recording albums.
Yeah, recording records. Like, it's just too much shit, man. Also, you know, it's just too hot all the time.
Yeah.
So we're really glad we're getting this done now, so we don't have to record for another couple of months of humidity in here in New England. But anyway, yeah, I guess maybe we'll do a nice update for folks when we come back in January. But until then, please keep yourselves safe and healthy and well and happy. And I hope that, you know, whatever your winter holiday celebrations are, I hope they're merry and lovely. Or if you don't do winter celebrations, I just hope you have a nice winter time. I hope you have a nice several months. Hopefully these episodes have been fun for you. And we'll be back next year with another season.
Yeah, we'll see. We're going to hopefully we've regained our helix strands that can help us endure more terrible books in the next year.
Yeah, but you know, please still reach out to us, even though, I mean, unfortunately, by the time you listen to this, I'm sure we will have scheduled out the entire 9th season. But you know, it doesn't hurt to reach out to us for 10th season, and sometimes we make last minute changes if we get really good requests. Yep. So please reach out to us. We also just love to hear from people anyway, like even if you don't have a recommendation, if you just want to shoot us a message or maybe review us somewhere where other humans will see it, that's also cool. But anyway, peace, love, and good reading to you all, and may you all have a lovely end of the year. We'll see you soon.
See you next year. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Terrible Book Club. Terrible Book Club is an independent podcast produced by your hosts, Paris and Chris. Sound design and audio editing by Chris, with sound effects and music by Epidemic Sound and sometimes also Chris. Our theme song is Kiss by Yearn, which is, you guessed it, actually also Chris. You can find more of his soothing synthy sounds on Bandcamp at yearn.bandcamp.com. Do you want us to review a book of your choice on the show? Do you want access to some extra audiovisual weirdness? If so, become a patron at patreon.com/terriblebookclub. If you'd like to send us a one-time tip instead, you can do that at ko-fi.com/terriblebookclub. You can also support TBC for free by sharing the show on social media, following our accounts on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Goodreads, telling your friends about your favorite episode, or by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or anywhere else on the internet. To send us book recommendations or your adorable pet photos, send an email to terriblebookclub@gmail.com.